Hello, everyone. Today I want to talk about a movie called Bad Girls Go to Hell. This is a movie from 1965 directed by Doris Wishman, and it's currently playing on the Criterion Channel. New to the channel in April of 2021 under a curated section called Films at Home. I didn't know what to expect. I'm currently in the midst, this is the sixth movie, I believe, of 18 that I'm watching the last 18 days of April that are new to the Criterion Channel, and I'm doing them in sort of chronological order. And I added a couple movies, two or three movies that are outside of my range of normal interest, and this certainly is one out of my range. Like I said, I didn't know what to expect. I thought some sort of exploitation movie. Films at Home is certainly applicable description of this movie because this is about as homemade a movie as you're ever going to see. Doris Wishman had made a bunch of films that she photographed in nudist colonies in the 1950s, and evidently in New York State, it was not considered obscene. I'm not sure where they were able to be shown. I'm not sure where this film was shown at. I imagine it was probably shown, The Bad Girls Go to Hell, on 42nd Street, back before Times Square became gentrified. The 42nd Street between 7th and 8th Avenues were loaded with movie houses that had titles on their marquees very similar to Bad Girls Go to Hell. I don't know who would ever be brave enough to go into these movie theaters. It was about as seedy looking location as you can imagine. And then Doris Wishman in the 60s, once the demand, whatever that was for the nudist colony movies, she made exploitation movies. This movie is described as one of her roughies. That's a term I don't recall whatsoever, but it's basically violence against women. And in Bad Girls Go to Hell, I think there's three or four, well, I guess three rape scenes, and then they sort of replay the first one later. But they're so ineptly staged. Normally I would have turned it off right away, but it does have a certain fascination of how ineptly you can make a film on a homemade shoestring budget, and basically these scenes are just terrorized expressions from the actress and pig-like expressions of the rapist, and neither expression done very well. These are certainly not professional actors in any real sense of the word. Wishman has the distinction of having made more films in the sound era than any other woman, and I won't even think there'd be a close second because she continued on making, when the roughies faded, then she made sexploitation movies. I think she even made a couple hardcore pornographic movies, but she didn't like those. What would the appeal of this film be? There's some nudity in the first section of the movie that's in the heroine's apartment. We do see her nude, and I don't know where this must have played on 42nd Street. I don't know where it would have played in other parts of the country. Maybe drive-ins out in rural areas. I don't know, where they were a bit more lax on obscenity laws. And then we have the rest of the movie. Really, the nudity is more like in lingerie and see-through lingerie type scenes. It's really bizarre, and Wishman has become, by the end of her life, she became sort of a cult figure. She actually was on a talk show once with Roger Ebert, and her films started playing in film festivals, were cult, bizarre kind of film festivals, and she garnered quite a reputation. I'm not. This, like I say, is out of my normal range of viewing. I need a little bit more than what this movie provides. But you got to give her kudos for being so the chutzpah of just being able to make so many films year after year, 2-3 films a year, and the other thing about this film is, I read some reviews on different sites that like these kind of films, and some of these people actually made significant claims for Doris Wishman. Her primitive technique to compare to Jean-Luc Godard, her storyline, this heroine who's just lost in the big city of New York, is Kafka's Joseph K. But to me, I mean, she was clearly making exploitation movies for an audience that was clearly men who have very misogynist attitudes towards women. Like to see them nude and like to see, it's hard to imagine, but like to see violence against women. Though the other thing that surprised me about this film is that, and her technique, like this primitive technique that's compared to Jean-Luc Godard, is sort of like the dialogue scenes are so. There's not even an attempt to sync the dialogue. So when we hear one character speaking, we are looking at the character being spoken to, or sometimes we just look at the bric-a-brac of an apartment house. Every once in a while, there's some post-dubbing where the lips are synced with dialogue, but most of the time not. But the other thing that surprised me about this movie is how good it looked. It looked like a brand new print. This is 1965, low budget, no budget really, film, and it really looked good. And in fact, this opening sequence in the heroine's apartment, it really was well lit, and she goes into a bathroom in the shower with her husband. And it really looked pretty good. And then there were some scenes in New York, so you get to see New York City, a little bit of it in 1965, some street scenes, some Central Park scenes in Central Park. That really surprised me because it has been released on DVD, but I don't think there's any kind of major restoration, so I must figure that somebody owned a pristine copy of this film that was used for the Criterion Channel. So, yeah, it was kind of, I mean, it was only 65 minutes, so it really wasn't that difficult to get through. And it is, I can understand its importance as a historical artifact, especially what would turn men on in 1965. It's a pretty bizarre world. You got to remember, this is before hardcore pornography, before, I guess there was softcore stuff on, as far as nudity went, but this is still a few years before hardcore pornography became legal in the United States. So it was a grimy, seamy world for men who were attracted to these kind of films to get their kicks. So anyways, that's about it for Bad Girls Go to Hell. I have a couple more really strange titles coming up. I don't know what they're going to be like, but it'll be pretty interesting. So for anybody who stuck around me through these brief comments, all I can do is say that I appreciate very much any subscribe, likes, especially comments that you can make would be very appreciated by me. And other than that, I'll catch you guys next